The voyage, commonly known as the Discovery of America, occupies a central and contested place in global history. Framed by the technological advances and geopolitical ambitions of late medieval Europe, the expeditions that reached the Atlantic lands west of Europe inaugurated an era of sustained intercontinental contact, exchange, and conflict. To treat this subject responsibly requires attention to its maritime and intellectual preconditions, the particularities of the voyages themselves, and the profound and often tragic consequences these encounters produced for Indigenous peoples throughout the Americas. Please hit the subscribe button before we embark on this journey through history together. Thank you. Now, let's begin by exploring what Europe was like before the discovery of America. Europe on the eve of expansion. By the 15th century, Europe's political map and commercial habits were shifting. The consolidation of powerful Iberian monarchies, notably the union of Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile, created a polity capable of underwriting ambitious maritime ventures. Concurrently, improvements in navigation, cartography, the magnetic compass, the astrolabe, and advances in ship design such as the caravel reduced some of the practical uncertainties of long sea voyages. Economic demand for Asian spices, silks, and other luxury commodities, combined with Ottoman control of overland trade routes after the fall of Constantinople, 1453, heightened interest in alternative passages to Asia. Intellectual currents shaped perceptions of the world. Classical and medieval geographical texts, fused with new observations from mariners, produced varied and sometimes contradictory estimates of the size of the Atlantic and of possible westward routes. Notable among those who considered westward navigation were mariners and theorists who argued that a round Earth permitted a passage to Asia by sailing west from Europe. Others, however, continued to doubt the practicality of such a route or held wildly inaccurate estimates of ocean breadth. 2. Christopher Columbus. Ambition, preparation, and sponsorship. Christopher Columbus, born in Genoa circa 1451, was a mariner and navigator whose career combined practical seafaring experience with an ambitious cosmographical project. He sought to reach Asia by a westward crossing of the Atlantic. Columbus's proposal rested on misestimates of the circumference of the Earth and the extent of Asia, but it was also informed by real navigational skill and knowledge of prevailing winds and oceanic currents. After repeated approaches to various European courts, Columbus secured royal patronage from the Spanish monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492. The terms of his commission reflected both his hopes and the Crown's pragmatic calculations. In return for financing and ships, the Spanish monarchy would receive political and economic benefits from any territorial claims and trade routes Columbus might open. 3. The 1492 Voyage. Events and immediate outcomes. On August 3, 1492, Columbus departed Palos de la Frontera with 3 vessels, the Niña, the Pinta, and the larger Carrack Santa Maria, and a crew drawn from diverse backgrounds. The voyage traversed the Canary Islands before veering due west into the open Atlantic. The crossing was prolonged and tense. Concerns among crew members about provisions, navigation, and the unknown prevalence of land were significant features of the human drama of exploration. On October 12, 1492, Julian calendar, a crewman sighted land in the Bahamian archipelago. Columbus landed on an island he later named San Salvador. Believing he had reached islands near East Asia, Columbus designated the inhabitants as Indios, Indians, a misnomer rooted in the original geographic aim of finding Asia. The initial contact between Europeans and the island's indigenous peoples was a mediated exchange of gifts, cautious hospitality, and mutual curiosity, interactions quickly followed by misunderstandings and longer-term processes of exploitation, disease transmission, and subjugation. Columbus's voyages did not reach the North American mainland during his first expedition. though later voyages encountered other islands, parts of the Caribbean, and the northern coasts of South America. Between 1492 and 1504, Columbus undertook 4 transatlantic voyages. His reports and the information he carried back to Spain stimulated further voyages by Spanish and Portuguese mariners, along with other European powers. 4. The naming of America and the broader cartographic shift. The appellation America derives not from Columbus, but from the Florentine navigator Amerigo Vespucci, who, in letters and published accounts in the late 1490s and early 1500s, argued that the lands encountered were not merely peripheral islands adjacent to Asia, but were parts of a distinct and vast New World. In 1507, the name America appeared on a widely circulated world map, honoring Vespucci's contributions and reflecting a broader transformation in European geographic knowledge. Cartographers gradually replaced older templates with maps that acknowledged the Atlantic lands as new continental masses rather than extensions of Asia. Consequences: exchange, empire, and catastrophe. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas marked the beginning of an era historians commonly term the Columbian Exchange. The widespread transfer of animals, plants, people, cultural practices, and pathogens between the Old and New Worlds. This exchange had far-reaching and unequal effects. Biological and demographic impacts: Old World diseases, smallpox, measles, influenza, and others, to which indigenous populations lacked immunity, precipitated catastrophic mortality and social dislocation. Scholars estimate that in many regions, disease-induced depopulation was rapid and devastating, reshaping political and demographic landscapes long before or alongside sustained European settlement. Economic and ecological transformations. European crops, livestock, and agricultural practices reshaped American ecologies. Conversely, New World crops, maize, potatoes, cassava, and others, transformed diets and agricultural possibilities in Europe, Africa, and Asia, contributing to population growth and economic shifts. Colonialism and political subjugation. European powers, initially Spain and Portugal, later England, France, and the Netherlands, established colonies, imposed political systems, and exploited indigenous labor and resources. The processes of conquest and colonization were diverse in method and often catastrophic in effect. Military violence, forced labor systems, such as the encomienda, cultural suppression, and expropriation of land undermined indigenous societies. Human mobility and forced migration. The expansion of plantation economies and mining ventures in the Americas led to the transatlantic slave trade, forcibly transporting millions of Africans to the New World. This shaped demographic patterns and created enduring legacies of racialized inequality. 6. Complexity of legacy and the ethics of memory. The story of Columbus and the discovery of America resists simple moralizing. On one hand, these voyages catalyzed an unprecedented global interconnection that ultimately produced modern global trade, scientific exchange, and the mixing of cultures. Many societies today reflect hybrid traditions born of these encounters. On the other hand, the immediate and long-term consequences for indigenous peoples were overwhelmingly destructive: demographic collapse, cultural dispossession, and violent subordination. Contemporary discussion thus grapples with how to remember these events. Monuments, holidays, and historical narratives vary in emphasis. Some celebrate navigational achievement and the opening of the Atlantic world. Others foreground the suffering inflicted on indigenous peoples and call for recognition, restitution, and a more critical public memory. In recent decades, historians and public educators have increasingly emphasized plural perspectives, centering indigenous experiences, acknowledging complicity in violence, and scrutinizing myths that minimize the harms of colonization. As we conclude, the legacy of Columbus and the explorers that followed is complex. While their journeys opened new worlds for exploration, they also brought profound changes, often destructive, to indigenous cultures and societies. As we reflect on this chapter of history, we recognize the lasting impact of exploration, conquest, and the blending of cultures that define America today, populations, and the human consequences of empire. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. To learn more about the discoveries and the histories that followed, visit our links in the description below, and don't forget to hit subscribe button to be among the first to receive our videos as soon as we publish them. See you next time.